Staff Sergeant Nora Ghost Phillips stared through her high-powered scope at a sight that made her blood run cold. 6 enemy snipers positioned on rooftops around the abandoned factory, each with their crosshairs trained on General Patricia Walsh, the woman who had pulled Nora from the streets of El Paso and made her into the deadliest marksman in the Army. Walsh was tied to a chair in the factory's center courtyard, completely exposed, while enemy commanders prepared to broadcast her execution as a propaganda victory. Through her radio, Nora could hear the enemy countdown. 60 seconds until the American general dies. She had taught Nora that in combat there are no second chances, only first shots that either save lives or end them. Now Nora had 60 seconds to prove that lesson, 6 targets to eliminate, and 1 mentor to save before the woman who believed in her became another casualty of war. But to understand why Staff Sergeant Nora Phillips would risk everything to save General Walsh, you need to know how a troubled teenager from the wrong side of El Paso became one of the most feared snipers in the United States Army. Nora Elena Phillips grew up in one of El Paso's roughest neighborhoods, where her Mexican mother, Maria, worked double shifts at a hospital cafeteria, while her Irish father, Sean, drank away his Army pension from Vietnam. The Phillips family lived in a 2-bedroom apartment that smelled like disinfectant from Maria's work clothes and whiskey from Sean's evening routine. By the time Nora was 16, she had learned to navigate gang territories, avoid drug dealers, and most importantly, stay invisible in a neighborhood where attention meant trouble. Her path to the military started during her senior year when recruiters visited El Paso High School. While other students walked past the display tables, Nora stopped at the Army booth and stared at a poster showing soldiers in combat gear. Not because she was attracted to military life, but because she recognized something in their eyes that matched what she saw in her bathroom mirror every morning. The look of people who had learned to survive in places where survival wasn't guaranteed. "You interested in serving your country?" asked the recruiter, a sharp-dressed sergeant whose nameplate read, Rodriguez. "I'm interested in getting out of El Paso," Nora replied honestly. "Will the Army help me do that?" Rodriguez smiled, recognizing the blunt honesty of someone who had run out of other options. "The Army will help you do that, and a lot more. Question is, are you tough enough for what we'll ask in return?" Nora looked him straight in the eye. "Sergeant, I've been tough enough for things you wouldn't believe since I was 12 years old." 6 months later, Nora shipped out to Fort Benning for basic training, carrying everything she owned in a single duffel bag and leaving behind a family that barely noticed her departure. Basic training revealed what her drill instructors called natural warrior instincts. She could navigate complex terrain like she'd been born in it, understand weapon systems with an intuition that couldn't be taught, and most importantly, she could remain completely calm under pressure that left other recruits panicking. Her marksmanship scores broke range records consistently. During advanced individual training, she qualified expert on every weapon system the Army put in her hands. But what really set her apart wasn't just accuracy. It was her ability to make impossible shots look routine, to find solutions that weren't in any manual, and to accomplish missions that other soldiers couldn't even understand. Her call sign, Ghost, came during her first deployment to Afghanistan in 2018, when she eliminated a high-value target from a position that enemy forces never detected. The shot was made from 1,200 meters through a sandstorm at a target that was visible for less than 3 seconds. After the mission, her squad leader reported, "Phillips moved through that operation like a ghost. Target eliminated, no trace left behind, like she was never there." The nickname stuck, and within months, special operations units across Afghanistan knew about the sniper who could appear anywhere, eliminate any target, and disappear without leaving evidence she had ever been present. But Nora's life changed forever during her second deployment to Syria in 2019, when she was assigned to provide overwatch for a joint task force operation that was supposed to be routine intelligence gathering. The mission went wrong from the first minute, with her ground team walking into a complex ambush that left them pinned down and taking casualties. That's when she first encountered Brigadier General Patricia Walsh. When the Syria mission collapsed into chaos, Walsh was the senior officer who made the decision that saved Nora's entire unit. Instead of following Pentagon protocols that would have waited for backup and air support, Walsh personally authorized an immediate extraction under fire, using assets that weren't technically under her command. "Get them out of there now," Walsh had ordered over the radio, her voice calm but absolutely certain. "I don't care what regulations say. Those soldiers are dying, and we're going to save them." The extraction succeeded, but Walsh faced a formal inquiry for exceeding her authority and violating command protocols. During the hearing, she was asked why she had risked her career to save a unit that wasn't her responsibility. "Because someone had to," Walsh replied simply. "Sometimes doing what's right conflicts with doing what's authorized. When that happens, you choose what's right and accept the consequences." Nora had been in the hearing room that day, called as a witness to describe the tactical situation. She watched Walsh face potential court-martial with the same calm certainty she had shown during the extraction, never wavering in her belief that saving soldiers was more important than following regulations. The charges were eventually dropped when the unit Nora belonged to, all 12 soldiers, testified that they owed their lives to Walsh's decision. But the general's willingness to sacrifice her career for people she barely knew made a profound impression on the young sniper from El Paso. After the hearing, Walsh approached Nora personally. "Phillips," she said quietly, "I've read your service record. Your marksmanship scores are exceptional, but more importantly, your instincts under pressure are exactly what this army needs. I'm putting you in for advanced sniper training at Fort Benning, followed by assignment to Joint Special Operations Command." Nora stared at her in disbelief. "Ma'am, why would you do that?" "You don't even know me," Walsh smiled slightly. "I know enough. I know you came from nothing and made yourself into something. I know you perform miracles under pressure, and I know the Army needs people who understand that sometimes rules exist to be broken when lives are at stake. Ma'am, what if I'm not good enough for special operations?" "Phillips," Walsh said with absolute conviction, "you're not good enough yet. But you will be, because I'm going to make sure you get every opportunity to become the soldier I believe you can be." That conversation changed everything for Nora. For the first time in her life, someone in authority had looked at her potential instead of her past, had seen her capabilities instead of her limitations, had invested in her future instead of writing her off. Advanced sniper training at Fort Benning pushed Nora beyond every limit she thought she had. The course eliminated 90% of candidates, but she not only survived, she excelled. Her instructors noted that she approached impossible shots with the calm confidence of someone who had never learned that certain things were supposed to be difficult. During one training exercise, she eliminated 5 targets from 5 different positions in under 2 minutes, moving through a mock urban environment like smoke. Her final shot was made while moving, at a target 800 meters away, in conditions that should have made accurate fire impossible. "How the hell did you make that shot?" her instructor demanded afterward. "Sir, I've been taking difficult shots since I was 18 years old," Nora replied. "This is just the first time someone gave me the right equipment to do it with." After graduation, Walsh personally ensured that Nora was assigned to the 75th Ranger Regiment, where she quickly earned a reputation as the kind of sniper that legends are made of. Her confirmed kills included some of the most difficult eliminations in modern military history. But what really set her apart was her ability to operate completely independently, appearing behind enemy lines to eliminate high-value targets that conventional forces couldn't reach. Over the next 3 years, Walsh continued to mentor Nora's career, recommending her for advanced training, ensuring she received assignments that would develop her skills, and most importantly, protecting her from military bureaucracy that sometimes viewed exceptional soldiers as threats to established order. "The Army has a tendency to crush people who think differently," Walsh explained during one of their regular check-ins. "My job is to make sure they don't crush you before you have a chance to show them what you can do." Nora had never experienced anything like Walsh's support. Having grown up with parents who barely acknowledged her existence, the general's investment in her development felt like discovering she had family she never knew existed. But their relationship was tested during Nora's third deployment to Iraq in 2021, when she was assigned to eliminate a high-value target that intelligence reports had been tracking for months. The target was a terrorist leader responsible for coordinating attacks against American forces, and his elimination was considered crucial for regional stability. The mission went perfectly until Nora discovered that the compound contained civilian hostages, women and children who would be killed if she took the shot from her planned position. Following strict mission parameters would have meant accepting civilian casualties to eliminate the target. Nora made a decision that violated every tactical protocol. She repositioned to a more dangerous location that would allow her to eliminate the target without risking civilian lives. The shot was successful, but her unauthorized movement compromised her extraction route and nearly resulted in her capture. When she returned to base, she faced immediate disciplinary action for disobeying mission parameters. The hearing was brutal, with officers questioning her judgment, her loyalty, and her fitness for special operations. That's when General Walsh intervened again. "This soldier accomplished the mission objective while preventing civilian casualties," Walsh testified on Nora's behalf. "She demonstrated exactly the kind of moral courage and tactical innovation that this Army should be developing, not punishing." "General, she violated direct orders," the presiding officer pointed out. "She improved the mission outcome while upholding American values," Walsh replied firmly. "Sometimes the best soldiers are the ones who understand that following orders isn't the same as serving your country." The disciplinary action was reduced to a formal reprimand, but more importantly, Walsh's support during the hearing cemented a bond between them that transcended normal military relationships. Nora realized that the general wasn't just her mentor, she was the closest thing to family she had ever known. Which brings us to that rooftop in Fallujah, Iraq, in March 2022, where Nora found herself staring through her scope at the woman who had transformed her life, now tied to a chair and surrounded by 6 enemy snipers preparing to execute her. The mission that led to Walsh's capture had been routine intelligence gathering, investigating reports of a new terrorist cell operating out of an abandoned industrial complex. Walsh had insisted on personally overseeing the operation, believing that direct command presence would ensure optimal coordination between multiple special operations units. But the intelligence was wrong. Instead of a small terrorist cell, the complex housed a major operations center run by Khalil al-Rashid, one of the most wanted terrorist or terrorist leaders in the Middle East. Al-Rashid had been planning this trap for months, using false intelligence to lure high-ranking American officers into a carefully prepared kill zone. When Walsh's convoy approached the complex, they drove directly into a sophisticated ambush involving over 40 well-armed fighters with military-grade weapons and coordinated defensive positions. The general's security detail fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered and outgunned from the moment the attack began. Walsh herself had been captured when she refused to abandon wounded soldiers during the firefight. Instead of evacuating when she had the chance, she remained in position to coordinate the extraction of her security team, only accepting capture after ensuring that every other American soldier was safely extracted. Now, 12 hours later, Al-Rashid was preparing to broadcast Walsh's execution as a propaganda victory, demonstrating that even American generals were vulnerable to his organization's reach. 6 professional snipers had been positioned to ensure that any rescue attempt would result in the general's immediate death. What Al-Rashid didn't know was that Staff Sergeant Nora Phillips had been tracking the situation since the moment Walsh's convoy went dark. Using skills that no manual taught and equipment that most soldiers never saw, she had infiltrated the complex perimeter and established overwatch on the execution site. Through her scope, Nora could see every detail of the tactical situation. The 6 enemy snipers were positioned on different rooftops surrounding the factory courtyard, each with a clear line of sight to Walsh's position. They were professional shooters with military-grade weapons, coordinated communication, and overlapping fields of fire designed to prevent exactly what Nora was about to attempt. The range to the nearest target was 400 meters. The farthest was nearly 800 meters away. Wind speed was gusting at 12 miles per hour from the northwest. The late afternoon sun created thermal distortions that would affect bullet trajectory, and she had exactly 60 seconds before the execution began. Under normal circumstances, eliminating 6 trained snipers in different positions before any of them could react would be considered impossible. But Nora Phillips had never been particularly concerned with what other people considered impossible. She'd spent the last 4 years training for exactly this type of scenario under Walsh's guidance. The general had pushed her to develop capabilities that went beyond standard military training, to become the kind of soldier who could accomplish missions that seemed impossible because they were the only ones standing between success and failure. Sometimes, Walsh had told her during training, you'll face situations where following conventional tactics means good people die. When that happens, you have to be prepared to attempt things that nobody thinks can be done. Now, watching Walsh face execution while 6 enemy snipers prepared to prevent any rescue attempt, Nora realized this was exactly the moment Walsh had been preparing her for. She began by studying each target through her scope, calculating wind drift, distance, and elevation for 6 different shots. Her rifle was a custom-built M24 system with match-grade ammunition that she had loaded personally, ensuring perfect consistency for each round. Target 1. Northwest rooftop, 427 meters, moderate wind exposure. Target 2. Northeast rooftop, 523 meters, partial wind shelter. Target 3, eastern position, 634 meters, elevated platform. Target 4, southeastern rooftop, 710 meters, maximum range. Target 5, southern position, 445 meters, thermal distortion. Target 6, western rooftop, 388 meters, closest target. Nora's plan was simple in concept but nearly impossible in execution. Eliminate all 6 targets in sequence before any of them could react, fire, or alert the others. She would have to account for different ranges, wind conditions, and elevation changes while maintaining perfect accuracy under maximum pressure. The countdown in her earpiece reached 30 seconds. Nora controlled her breathing, feeling her heartbeat slow to the rhythm that had made her legendary in special operations communities. Her first target was the closest, the western rooftop position that posed the most immediate threat to Walsh, 25 seconds. Through her scope, she could see the enemy sniper adjusting his position, preparing for the execution shot. He was a professional, methodical in his movements, confident in his ability to prevent any rescue attempt. He had no idea that death was already tracking him from 388 meters away. 20 seconds. Nora's crosshairs settled on the target's head with mechanical precision. She exhaled half her breath and held it, feeling the perfect stillness that preceded every shot that mattered. 15 seconds. Her finger began applying pressure to the trigger with the gradual consistency that separated expert marksmen from everyone else. The rifle felt like an extension of her will, perfectly balanced and absolutely reliable. 10 seconds. The first shot cracked across the distance like thunder. At 388 meters, the bullet took less than half a second to reach its target. The enemy sniper's head snapped back, and he collapsed behind his position without making a sound. 5 targets remaining. 55 seconds until backup snipers would investigate. Nora shifted to target 2 on the northeast rooftop, 523 meters away. The enemy sniper was focused on Walsh's position and hadn't noticed his colleague's elimination. Through her scope, she could see him making final adjustments to his rifle. Her second shot eliminated him before he could complete his targeting sequence. 4 targets remaining. 50 seconds. Target 3 was the most challenging yet, 634 meters away on an elevated platform with thermal distortion affecting bullet trajectory. Nora compensated for heat shimmer and wind drift, settling her crosshairs on a target that was barely visible in her scope. The third shot was perfect, center mass hit that dropped the enemy sniper instantly. 3 targets remaining, 45 seconds. The southeastern rooftop held target 4 at 710 meters, maximum range for her rifle system under these conditions. This was the kind of shot that separated legendary snipers from merely excellent ones. Wind speed, elevation difference, thermal effects, and target movement all had to be calculated in real time. Nora's fourth shot traveled nearly 3/4 of a mile before finding its target. Another perfect hit. 2 targets remaining. 40 seconds. Target 5 on the southern position was 445 meters away, but partially concealed behind concrete barriers. Nora could see only his head and shoulders through her scope. The margin for error was measured in inches. Her 5th shot was surgically precise, eliminating the target through the narrow gap in his cover. 1 target remaining. 35 seconds. The final enemy sniper was on the eastern position, 634 meters away. As Nora shifted to target him, she realized he had noticed that communication with his teammates had gone silent. He was looking around, trying to understand why nobody was responding to his radio calls. Through her scope, she could see confusion on his face as he began to comprehend that something had gone catastrophically wrong. He started to turn his rifle away from Walsh's position, searching for the threat that had eliminated his entire team. But he was 30 seconds too late. Nora's 6th shot ended his search permanently. Total elapsed time, 28 seconds, 6 targets, 6 shots, 6 kills. The factory courtyard fell silent, except for Walsh's voice carrying across the distance. "Whoever just did that, this is General Walsh. Area is secure for extraction." Nora keyed her radio with a voice that carried 4 years of gratitude, respect, and love for the woman who had transformed her life. "General, this is Ghost, coming to bring you home." 20 minutes later, Nora reached Walsh's position and cut her restraints with hands that were perfectly steady, despite having just completed the most difficult shooting sequence in modern military history. "Phillips," Walsh said as the ropes fell away, "how the hell did you eliminate 6 snipers in under 30 seconds? Ma'am, you taught me that when lives are at stake, impossible is just another word for something nobody's tried hard enough to accomplish." Walsh smiled, the first genuine smile Nora had seen from her in months. "I taught you a lot of things, but I never taught you to make shots like that." "No, ma'am, you didn't teach me the shooting. But you taught me why the shooting matters. You taught me that sometimes one person has to do things that seem impossible because good people need protecting." As they moved toward the extraction point, Walsh asked the question that had been bothering her since the rescue. "Nora, how did you even know I was here?" This was a classified operation with minimal personnel notification. Nora looked at the woman who had pulled her from the streets of El Paso and made her into something she never thought possible. "Ma'am, I've been tracking your missions for 4 years, not officially, just personally. Because someone needs to watch over the person who watches over everyone else. Phillips, that's not part of your job description. Respectfully, General, you made it part of my job description the day you decided to invest in a kid from El Paso who had no business wearing this uniform. You protected me when I needed protecting. Now, I protect you. Walsh was quiet for a moment, understanding for the first time the depth of loyalty she had earned through 4 years of mentorship and support. You know, Phillips, when I first recommended you for advanced training, I thought I was developing a sniper. I didn't realize I was creating a guardian angel. 3 weeks later, Staff Sergeant Nora Phillips received the Silver Star for extraordinary heroism in action against enemy forces. The citation read, "For gallantry in action during combat operations in Iraq, Staff Sergeant Phillips's exceptional marksmanship and tactical brilliance resulted in the successful rescue of a senior military officer and the elimination of a significant terrorist threat." But the medal that mattered most to Nora came from General Walsh personally, a simple unit citation that read, "For demonstrating that the best soldiers are the ones who understand that some things are more important than following orders." During the award ceremony, Walsh approached Nora privately. "Phillips, I have a question for you. What made you decide to risk everything to save me? You could have followed protocols, waited for backup, done everything by the book." Nora considered the question seriously. "Ma'am, 4 years ago you told me that sometimes doing what's right conflicts with doing what's authorized. When that happens, you choose what's right and accept the consequences. I was talking about saving soldiers under fire, not violating military protocols to rescue commanding officers. General, you saved me when I was just another kid from the wrong side of El Paso with no future and no hope. You saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. You invested in me when nobody else would take the chance." Nora paused, trying to find words for feelings that didn't translate easily into military language. "Ma'am, you didn't just train me to be a better soldier. You showed me what it means to be a better person. You taught me that loyalty flows both ways, that leadership means protecting the people who follow you, and that sometimes the most important mission is the one nobody orders you to complete." Walsh smiled, recognizing her own words and values reflected in the young soldier she had mentored. "Phillips, what are you planning to do when this deployment ends?" "Whatever you recommend, ma'am. You've never steered me wrong yet. I'm recommending you for the Sergeant Major Academy, followed by assignment to Special Operations Command as an instructor. The Army needs people who can teach the next generation that following orders isn't the same as serving your country." "Ma'am, are you trying to turn me into you?" Walsh laughed. "No, Phillips. I'm trying to help you become the version of yourself that I saw 4 years ago when you were just a kid with potential. The Army needs leaders who understand that some things matter more than regulations, who will risk everything to protect the people who trust them." 6 months later, Nora received orders to report to the United States Army Sergeant Major Academy at Fort Bliss, Texas, less than 50 miles from the El Paso neighborhood where she had grown up believing she had no future. On her last night before leaving Iraq, she sat in her quarters writing a letter to General Walsh, trying to express what the last 4 years had meant to her. "General," she wrote, "you pulled me from the streets and gave me a purpose. You showed me that leadership isn't about rank or authority. It's about taking care of people who trust you with their lives. You taught me that the most important battles are often fought by people who never get recognition, and that sometimes the greatest victory is bringing everyone home alive. I know I'll never be able to repay what you've done for me, but I can promise you this: every soldier I train, every mission I complete, every time I choose to do what's right instead of what's easy, I'll be honoring the lessons you taught me. You didn't just make me into a better soldier. You made me into someone who understands that with great skill comes great responsibility, and that sometimes one person really can make a difference if they're willing to take the shot when it matters most. The story of what happened that day in Fallujah became legendary within special operations communities, but Nora never sought recognition for her actions. She continued serving with the same quiet professionalism that had defined her entire military career, accepting the most dangerous assignments and consistently proving that sometimes the impossible is just another word for necessary. Because for Staff Sergeant Nora Ghost Phillips, protecting people who couldn't protect themselves wasn't just her mission. It was her way of honoring the woman who had shown her that one person's faith in another could change everything. When General Walsh threw her career on the line to save a unit that wasn't her responsibility, she demonstrated that sometimes leadership means risking everything to protect people who trust you. When Nora eliminated 6 enemy snipers to save the general who had mentored her, she proved that loyalty and gratitude can motivate ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. In the end, the most important lesson wasn't about marksmanship or tactics or military strategy. It was about understanding that the people who lift us up deserve our protection in return, and that sometimes the greatest honor is being the person others can count on when everything else fails. For Nora Phillips, that day in Fallujah wasn't just about making 6 impossible shots under maximum pressure. It was about proving that the faith General Walsh had placed in a troubled kid from El Paso had been justified, and that sometimes the best way to honor your mentors is to become someone worthy of their investment. Some debts can never be fully repaid, but they can be honored through a lifetime of service to the values and principles that your mentors represent. For Nora, saving General Walsh wasn't just a rescue mission. It was the completion of a circle that began 4 years earlier, when Walsh decided to invest in her potential. And sometimes that's what real leadership looks like. Creating people who will risk everything to protect the values you taught them, who will attempt the impossible because you showed them it was necessary, and who will honor your faith in them by becoming the kind of person who never lets good people down. In a world where loyalty is often just a word, Nora Phillips proved that for some people, loyalty is a way of life that can motivate 6 perfect shots under impossible pressure, because sometimes that's what it takes to protect the people who made you who you are. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe to see more incredible stories like this one.